Kick off summer with Memorial Day savings at Lowe's. Right now, get 5 Scott's Naturescapes 1.5 cubic foot mulch bags for just $10. Plus, get up to 40% off select major appliances and save an extra $50 on every $500 you spend on select major appliances $396 or more. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 5/28. Mulch offer excludes Alaska and Hawaii. Selection varies by location. While supplies last. See Lowe's.com for more details.
If you love to travel, Capital One has a rewards credit card that's perfect for you. With the Capital One Venture X card, you earn unlimited double miles on everything you buy. Plus, you get premium benefits at a collection of luxury hotels when you book on Capital One Travel. And with Venture X, you get access to over 1,000 airport lounges worldwide. Open up a world of travel possibilities with the Capital One Venture X card. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. Lounge access is subject to change. See CapitalOne.com for details.
Blog Talk Radio.
All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Golf Talk Live. I'm your host, Ted Odorico, and got another great show for you tonight. Going to be starting off here in just a few moments with another great round of Coach's Corner, and I've got two fabulous professionals who've been on the show many times, Leno Zimron and, of course, Pete Buchanan are going to be rounding out the Coach's Corner panel tonight. And then a little bit later on, I'm going to be joined by lifetime member of the PGA Tour, first-time guest on the show, Wally Armstrong will be coming on the second hour of the show. So glad you could tune in tonight. It's going to be a great show. And let me just remind everybody, of course, all of the particulars here. As always, we are live Thursday evenings from 6 to 8 p.m. Central here on the blogtalkradio.com network. And best way to find us, of course, is go to blogtalkradio.com and up in the search key type Golf Talk Live, and that will take you to the main page. And, of course, during the live broadcast, it'll be front and center. But for those of you that can't tune in live, not to worry. Again, visit that link, blogtalkradio.com, and go to the home page there in Golf Talk Live, and just scroll down the page a little bit, and you'll see the on-demand section. And in chronological order, of course, newest shows or the most current shows will always be at the top, and you can go back and listen to whatever show you missed, or maybe you want to listen to a show again that a particular favorite guest was on, or Coach's Corner panel discussion that you enjoyed, and maybe you'd like to get a few pointers. By all means, visit the on-demand section there. You can also listen to it if you're somebody that enjoys through iTunes.com or Stitcher.com. Those are two great platforms as well. Again, just go to the search key and type in Golf Talk Live, and you can listen to it, the show as well every week at iTunes.com and Stitcher.com as well. And as always, I update the shows on social media. Facebook.com / Golf Talk Live blog is the main page, but I also update it on my personal pages as well. Also on Twitter, you can follow me on Twitter at Ted and Buck CEO, of course, being in capital letters. The show, of course, is always updated there. And even at LinkedIn.com, I post it through LinkedIn. So thanks for following, everybody, and for keeping up to date with all of the current shows. And as I said, we got a great show for you tonight. Going to be starting things off with Coach's Corner. So let me just bring the panel out here. First one, of course, is Leno Zimron. She's a Class A LPGA teacher professional and has been a part of our Coach's Corner team for some time now. Always up to interesting things, as usual. She's a passionate pioneer in body-mind approaches to peak performance and well-being. She's also been both a junior and senior golf champion and is the founder of KiAi Golf Training, the KiAi Way Inc, and EveryBusinessWoman Golf. Known as the Golf Sensei, Master Instructor, she brings holistic teachings to golfers and leaders, which is culled from her rich background as a 5th degree Aikido black belt. She's also a psychologist, sports counselor, corporate speaker, and executive coach. And rounding out the panel tonight, of course, is another favorite on the show, Pete Buchanan. He is the founder and director of instruction and owner of Plain Simple Golf, LLC, which, of course, houses the Plain Simple Golf circuit and the Simple Swing Repeater Training Brace. Teaching over the last 30 years plus, Pete has been simplifying his golf swing philosophy in an effort to make it easier for you guys and simple for players to play this great game. So guys, without further ado, welcome to Coach's Corner on Golf Talk Live.
Thank you, Ted. Very happy to be here and with my esteemed colleagues. Always great to talk with you and connect with your audience. An honor.
Great. Thank you, Jamie, and Pete as well. Thank you for dialing in tonight. I appreciate it. All right, guys, we're gonna handle a topic actually that I mentioned. I think actually we lost Pete. We'll wait for Pete to call back in. But let me just sort of set the face of the show tonight. We're going to talk about the dealing with an aging population. Let me just bring Pete back on here. Hey, Pete, we lost you there for a second, but no, not a problem.
Sorry about that.
Not a problem. Just as I was saying, the conversation that we're going to talk about tonight, guys, is dealing with an aging golf population. Now, this was a topic, as I mentioned just a moment ago off air, that Cindy Miller and I on the Women of Golf show, which airs Tuesday mornings from 9 to 10 a.m. Eastern here on the blogtalkradio.com network. We started this conversation, so I thought this would be an interesting topic. We've never really touched this on this show here on Golf Talk Live's Coach's Corner, and I thought what a couple of great pros to dial into this conversation as well here tonight. So let me start it off first and just say one of the things that I think that a lot of people need to know, not just the students out there, but even fellow teach professionals, we deal with a lot of a variety of different students of all different ages for the most part, from junior golfers right up to our senior golfers. But we're going to focus on the senior golfers tonight. So my question is this, and I'm going to go ladies first if you don't mind, Jamie. Does our teaching method or philosophy, if you will, need to adjust in order to adapt and meet the ever-changing goals and needs of our aging golfing population?
Always great questions, Ted. Well, I think that we have to look at, in the LPGA, for example, we have what we call student-centered learning. And so regardless, whoever your student is, regardless of age or ability level, whatever the particulars are of that person or that group, we really as professionals and teachers need to orient and be sensitive to what are their needs, why are they playing golf, what are their physical capabilities, what are really their interests, what other sports background do they have or not, are they playing golf for social reasons, for competitive reasons, for health reasons, for enjoyment reasons, and it could be all of the above. So I think that student-centered approach is always, always important, and that there are some particulars for the more, say, senior or aging population. I mean, we're all aging, right? But there comes a time when,
right.
Physical, we start noticing that, we're a little less flexible, strength's waning a little bit, rotational ability, whatever it is, that these things are really starting to change. And so I think we really have to address ourselves to those issues in a big way.
Yeah, and we're gonna touch on a few of those points that you just mentioned here in just a moment as well. But great answer, Jamie. Thank you as always. Pete, I'm just going to add this to the question. Obviously, the same question to you, but obviously, and I'm going to just throw a number out there just to kind of have something to use as a gauge. But we start talking about golfers that are up in their 60s, maybe mid 60s, as an example. And if they've been playing for any length of time, obviously if they're a newer golfer, again, we're going to change a little bit. But let's say they've been playing for a number of years. Do we want to spend less time really teaching the mechanics of golf and maybe spend more on teaching them how to increase their scoring opportunities? Might be a better way to put it.
Well, I think it really depends on, the type of player that you have. I think you always have to have sound fundamental mechanics. That's going to enable them to be able to score better when they play. And, my approach has always been, the ball doesn't know how old you are. It only knows the club's going to hit it. So we have to be able to get the impact right first and get them under control of the golf ball. And then I think it's going to be much easier for them on the course to be able to play better. Controlling the golf ball, I think, is the simplest part of golf. Playing it's a little bit more difficult. You still have other situations you have to go out there with. But I think You have to have some ability to control the golf ball and some consistency in the impact with good, solid fundamentals. And then I think it's going to be easier to get them to play better golf on the course.
Yeah, and I guess the reason why, I pose this specific question, guys, is this. One of the biggest complaints I hear from a lot of senior golfers is obviously lack of distance, obviously with some aches and pains that they're experiencing as we all get older. We start to develop that, and Jamie, you pointed out, maybe a little less flexibility in that. It doesn't really come so much about controlling, because they're not able to utilize the swing fully that they maybe once did in their 20s, but their scoring is going up. Their scoring is not staying level or even coming down. It's creeping up there, and there becomes a certain dissatisfaction. So again, the reason why I wanted to ask that particular question is, do we need to really focus on helping them score better, because that's really what they want. They want scoring back, and yes, certainly some want to increase distance and things like that, but I think if their scores are getting lower, or at least maintaining them and not going back up, I think they're going to be relatively happy. Do you either agree? Jamie, I'll let you respond first, then Pete.
Well, I think it's hard as we, grow older in any area of our life to sort of recognize that maybe our capabilities are not quite what they were before. And so when you say focusing on, being able to score, even if the distance, say, isn't quite there, I think that is important. I think that it's, we've got to help people have realistic expectations. I really appreciated Jack Nicklaus going out there and saying, you know what, play the tees that match your game. Because let's say that you've lost 10 or 20 yards. Well, move up the tees, and there's your 10, 20 yards. Play the game, score, enjoy yourself. And so I think that, our egos can get in the way, let's put it that way. And
right.
It was so nice to have someone like Jack Nicklaus just say, hey, this isn't an ego thing. This is like, enjoy yourself, play with relative to what your capabilities are. And, in that regard, I think that people can certainly enjoy themselves. My approach is very much for everybody, and especially for the aging golfers, is around I call it make your golf club your health club. I've talked about it before. But it's a whole kind of fitness system that I've developed, and it really uses your golf club as your health club. There are exercises to increase flexibility, strength, pattern the golf swing for consistency, all these sorts of things. And I think that if we take the attitude that playing golf, even more than maybe other sports, except for maybe something like swimming or basic walking, which anybody can do, but playing golf is a fantastic way to keep your physical fitness up, to keep your social engagement up, to keep your mind sharp, that there are so many benefits to playing golf. And if we look at it that way, and really utilize golf as a way to, be our health club. Wow, I mean, as we always say, golf is something you can play into your later years and really get so much benefit out of. And I think that because golf is time-consuming, we find that there are many people who don't even get around to playing golf at all, or playing as much golf as they'd like until their retirement years. And that's a great thing.
Right. Yeah, that's right, and great answer, by the way. Yeah, no, you're exactly right. And Pete, I guess the reason why, again, I was posing this particular discussion tonight is, again, just some of the feedback, and I'm sure we've all had similar feedback with some of the players. And I think when I say scoring opportunities, I'm really talking about helping them play the round a little bit with more confidence. Obviously, if they're not able to rely on the distance that they once had, they got to think smarter. And Jamie, as you pointed out, Jack Nicklaus, thank the good Lord, talked about moving, up to a forward tee as one of the options to help alleviate the distance problem. But there are other factors out there. There's golfers out there that maybe, again, due to physical impairments, maybe have difficulties taking the club all the way back. So they've had to shorten their backswing and make some adjustments. So I think we need to be conscious of that, obviously, and consider that as we get more and more golfers to help them stay in the game. And as Jamie just pointed out, some great reasons to stay in the game. But any final thoughts before we move on, Pete, on that particular topic?
Well, I didn't want to, discount the the importance of, the short game and the scoring ability on the golf course. I mean, that's always going to be something that's important. But, I have found, especially with those that are in their, as I call, more experienced players, getting the sound fundamentals down and not only feed into the full swing, but they feed into the short game. Yeah, I always call them more experienced. I think that's a better way to do it. They certainly have more experience playing at it than I do. But in a lot of ways, I'll tease them and say, I've got a lot of years of experience we have to change. I mean, you've been doing it this way for 40 years. And so we have to go about, making it. And I think the swing has to be efficient so that it has, I always call it the least road traveled. Let's get it so you don't have to make so many compensations. And now we can make it more efficient, in which every one of them that I've had have hit it further. So I'm not worried about the distance factor of it because I know they're going to hit it a little bit further because we're going to make it more efficient. But, yes, getting them on the golf course, getting them in situations and helping them understand, when I'm in this situation, what's the best way to handle this. And I think, yes, you're absolutely right. We can certainly take them around and make them better players by just getting them to understand a little bit better about what's going on the golf course.
Yeah, exactly. Pete, I'm going to bounce right back to you here with this particular question. You start first, and then Jamie, by all means, jump in. But equipment is a big factor as well. A lot of people have a favorite set of clubs that they've been playing for years. But as time goes on, obviously you want to make sure your grips are fresh in that every season, depending on how much you play. You want to make sure you're playing the right equipment as well. Obviously, as we get older, different flex shafts might be necessary, or it might be time to update that set of golf clubs as well. I know you hate to give them away or hate to lock them away for good, but Pete, the truth of the matter is that can make a huge difference for a lot of our senior players as well, or more advanced players, because if they're playing equipment they've had for 20 years, the technology has changed so much. So talk a little bit about that, the importance of that aspect and some of the benefits maybe that they can do with that.
Well, there's no question today with the outfits that are out there, and I'll toss a name out there because I use them a lot here in St. Louis. They're called Club Champion. They have so many combinations of things in fitting that can just dial it in and make it so much easier and more efficient for them to get the clubs to fit what they're doing. And I know a lot of times they're a little bit hesitant because there's some expense involved, but I say, hey, look, let's start with a putter. Then let's go to your wedges. And then maybe let's look at a fairway wood or a hybrid. There are certain things, those scoring clubs. Let's look at the wedges. Let's look at the putter. Let's get those to fit for now so that we've got those scoring shots down, and then we can work into the rest of them. But, I'm a prime example. I played Dynamic Gold S300 shafts forever, and, now they're just too heavy, and, for me, so, I'm switching down into more flexible, lighter shafts, and I'm picking up 15 or 18 yards on an iron. So there's no question that the equipment today is so much better. The fits are so much more precise because of everything that they can use to make them. And, I always recommend to all my players, whether they're senior or the younger ones, make sure the clubs fit, because that's going to be a huge thing you don't have to worry about when you're playing golf to make it more efficient.
And something else too, great answer, Pete, by the way. Jamie, on that theme, the other thing too that Pete touched a little bit about on is looking at what clubs are in the bag as well. I mean, a lot of players maybe haven't changed out some of their longer clubs. They're maybe not using a hybrid. Maybe they should be switching to a hybrid or a fairway wood. There's a lot of other utility woods out there as well. But the other thing as well, for some of those players that maybe have traditionally played a blade iron for years, maybe they need to look at a more forgiving club head design as well as they get up in age, because their abilities to connect with those blade irons are not maybe as solid as they once were. So that might be an option as well. What are your thoughts?
Oh, absolutely. I think I always say that it's not the driver, it's the driver. It's not the putter, it's the putter. So I really think that we have to look at ourselves and our own fitness and our own technique and these kinds of things. That really is what makes a difference. Clubs in and of themselves don't. That being said, I just can't echo enough that having clubs that fit, having up-to-date equipment can actually blow people's minds. My mind was blown when I was away from golf for a while. I was, kind of a junior champion, a star player, and then I was away busy with my martial arts and other things. When I came back to golf and picked up this new equipment, which I was hesitant to do, I was completely blown away. Right. It was fantastic. And to have clubs that fit, to have clubs that are, the latest new technology is just an incredible aid and feels so good. And the fact that we have hybrids, we have clubs that are, much more, shall we say, user-friendly. And I can't say how often forgiving. I bump into people all the time. In fact, I was just with a woman, she's a CEO, and I was here in Pennsylvania a couple weeks ago as well, and we went out for a lesson, and I looked at her clubs first thing, and her clubs were 15 years old. And, she's kind of attached to them. She doesn't play all that much and whatever. And I just said, would you run your business without the proper equipment, without updated equipment? She's like, no. I said, well, it's probably true in your golf clubs as well, and I guarantee you, you will be very, very pleasantly surprised, more than pleasantly surprised, when you get updated clubs that really fit you. And she said, really? I said, yeah, it's worth it. It's important. And not only that, it'll thrill you. You'll be so happy. It's worth it, absolutely worth it. So she's gone out and done it, and she's just like, she's already kind of over the moon about it. And, you don't have to spend so much money. It's not necessarily that you have to drop so much money on it. But, getting some kind of fit and definitely updated clubs is a big part of things. And I will say this as well, ego, again, comes in. And I kind of noticed that it's more sort of a macho thing. It's like, I don't want to go down some stiff shafts or go to a senior flex or something like that. But there's really no point in having your ego there. If it's easier on your body, if you're hitting the ball better, why wouldn't you get clubs that fit what your, where your body's at now?
Right, I agree, and just for those of you listening out there, with the laser printer technology out there, you can stick in that senior shaft and just print yourself off a stiff shaft label and peel it on there. Nobody will know the difference anyway. So, if you want to cheat a little bit and just make them look like you're still playing the same shaft, nobody will know the difference. Of course, you can't do that in competition, but you're right, Jamie. That's a valid point. A lot of people, especially the guys, it's a macho thing, and we don't want to decrease, the flexibility of the shaft because we think it's going to take away. But really, I can't tell how many, begin to tell you how many guys that I've dealt with and that have gone out and made those changes to their equipment. And they said, Ted, I don't know why I didn't do this 10 years ago. And I said, well, that's what I've been telling you for the last 10 years is change the equipment. All right, let's move on.
What's funny? I just
go ahead.
Can I just pop something in there?
Sure.
I mean, the ego thing, it pops up in so many different ways. Like, I'll notice it in myself, right? And here I am, a woman golfer. It's like nobody knows if I'm hitting a 7-iron or an 8-iron. Why not let myself hit the 7-iron instead of be short? Because nobody even knows. And this is, it shows up in so many different ways. And I think what we want is to just succeed and hit the ball well, enjoy ourselves, score well, and whatever that takes, we ought to allow ourselves to do. My dad, bless his heart, he's 97 now, and he's not playing now, but not that long ago. And I would be amazed. I'd be like, Dad, you're 86 or whatever he was. Like, move up.
Yeah.
You can play the forward tees. So it's amazing how that goes.
Yeah, it's true, and we're all, as you said, as you guys both put out, we're all slowly moving towards that number ourselves, and we have to be realistic in that. And this goes to another area too. And Pete, I'm going to start with you. Is really reassessing your students' needs. How often should this be happening? Obviously, we do annual assessment, of our students, and obviously our newer students that come in, we do a full spectrum assessment to get an idea of what we're working with. But Pete, if we're working with somebody in a fairly regular, if we're coaching them or something, how often should we reassessing that student's needs?
Well, I can tell you, I do it all the time. I'm always, every time I see them, I'm going through and asking them questions. So, how's your putting, how's your chipping, how's your pitching, what things are you working on, what's giving you trouble. I have a score sheet that I have a lot of players use, which has them mark the different types of shots they're playing during the rounds. And so that way we can see where they're struggling and where too many shots are coming from. And so I'm constantly talking to them about, what's going on, and not necessarily reevaluating the overall instruction that we're doing, but, looking at how they're playing, what they're doing, what they're struggling with, and then making small moves to adapt to that. Maybe changing out the practice routine to emphasize, more chipping or more pitching because they're struggling with it at that time. So I constantly do it. So, I know every year I do a reevaluation to start the year off because some of them haven't played all winter long. But, during the season, I'm always asking questions and always evaluating where they are and what they're doing and making changes as necessary.
Yeah, and I think it's important, Jamie, as well, as Pete just pointed out, is keeping having the students, and actually it's not just a matter or our responsibility to keep a good record of that as well, but we want to encourage the students to keep their own records, to sort of monitor and track their progress throughout our sessions, to see that their goals and needs are being met. So talk a little bit about that. What's your sort of philosophy or your approach on that? How often do you like to try to, when you're working with students on a fairly regular basis, do you like to assess their needs and keep them updated with what's going on in the process?
Well, I think it's like Pete said, it's really keeping in constant communication. And if you're fortunate enough to see people regularly, they come to you on a regular basis, which happens at a lot of clubs, but a lot of times it doesn't happen. But if you do have that capability, it's great, as Pete was saying, to check in with them on what's going on in different aspects of their game, or maybe they get interested all of a sudden to work on a particular area of their game. The other thing, especially with people maybe that are newer students for you or that you don't see so often, I find that I always ask any aches, pains, injuries, surgeries I should know about. It could be affecting.
Right.
It could be affecting you. Even medications. And
yes.
Those are real things, I mean, and how is the person's stamina? Are they, could they get dizzy? Could the heat be too much? What are they eating on the golf course? I mean, things like this are really, really important to how they're doing. And, it may sound sort of funny, but these are really, really essential to know. And it always amazes me when I ask those questions, aches, pains, injuries, surgeries, and people will go, oh, well, and they just sort of make light of something. I'm like, are you kidding? That just happened? Or that was significant. It might have happened. That car accident or that shoulder surgery 8 years ago or 20 years ago, that matters. And, how is that feeling in your body right now? How does that affect you, limit you? How's it feeling right now when you make this movement that we're working on in your golf swing? Is that being affected, et cetera? Because it may be something we need to work around, something we need to work through. And I don't know if we're going to aim the conversation a little bit more to this whole matter of physical conditioning and exercise. But that is so important for all of us. And, whether you're sort of a young gun who's wanting to be in tip-top Rory McIlroy or whatever type shape, or, you're an aging golfer, conditioning is so very, very important. And I've worked with golfers in their 80s, even into their 90s, when we can increase their flexibility or their extension or their stability or their balance a little bit, they start picking up 3 yards, 5 yards, 8 yards. If we work on their conditioning and maybe some aerobic a little bit, riding a bicycle, swimming, or a stationary bicycle, it doesn't matter what it is, all of a sudden their endurance is going up on the golf course, or they're needing to take less Advil. They're finding that they can play 18 holes instead of 9 holes, or not poop out after 12 holes, and kind of have things fall apart the rest of the way around. So, a little bit of fitness and conditioning goes a long way, and can actually restore us, restore the strength or the yardage or whatever that it seems we might be losing. I've seen people turn around and go back the other way, and they're so happy.
Yeah, no, that's an excellent point. And yeah, that was going to be my next point to jump into is about that. But I just wanted to clear one thing or make one other comment about what we were talking about. Cindy talked about, I'm talking about my co-host on the Women of Golf show on Tuesday mornings, LPGA professional Cindy Miller. And she talked about a student that she worked with recently that kind of, on bunker shots, for instance, kind of flinched in the bunker shot. And it just, it was an aging golfer, and that's a very common thing, too, is they don't have that fluidity anymore. And again, that goes into, Jamie, we're going to talk about here, and I know you've already pointed out some things, is about the flexibility and the stress on the joints as we age. We've had years of maybe sports activity or even just walking and doing all kinds of different exercise and things like that puts a lot of stress on the body. That's a major thing, and also dietary and nutritional changes might be needed. Jamie, and I'm going to let you touch a little bit about that, and then Pete, if you want to jump in as well with your thoughts and comments on that. But Jamie, go ahead, talk a little bit more about some of our mature golfers out there about the importance of keeping flexible and stress on joints and that, some of the things that maybe they can do.
Well, there are so many exercises really that you can do, and again, I love to use the golf club to do it because and some people like to go to a gym or can go to a class. Anything is good. When you can make your golf club your health club and it applies directly to your golf swing, and you already have golf clubs, you don't necessarily even have to go to a class or a gym. You can do these exercises yourself and make them a part of your daily routine. That's a great thing. And you notice that you have those health benefits, those fitness benefits for just in general for your life. But some specifics, for example, I think one of the things that happens is that our range of motion, our rotational ability, our spinal health, the flexibility in our hips, those things tend to, go down some with aging. And so it's really important to stretch the hips, to strengthen the hip flexors, the glute muscles, the quads, your legs. These things increase your balance. They can also help you prevent falls, which are probably the number one health hazard for seniors and for people as we age. So strengthening our balance in our golf swing allows us to have greater distance, greater accuracy, and in our lives it can be life-saving, so that falls don't happen. I'm really working particularly on the hips and the legs, the spinal health, really, really, really important. And I could go into some specific exercises. There's
Sure.
Plenty of them. There are also things like, for example, flaring your feet out a little bit, and especially the forward foot, the left foot if you're a right-handed golfer, the right foot if you're a left-handed golfer. That allows you to get through the ball a little better. Sometimes making a little adjustment in the stance where your trail foot, you might drop back a little bit, and that just opens the hip up. It allows rotation to happen more. Exercises to work on spinal rotation, to work on range of motion in the shoulders, extension, so that you can extend down the line on your backswing and through the ball. And even, this may sound funny, but stretching out the muscles around your elbows in your forearm and your upper arm.
Yeah.
Because when you have tight arms and tight elbows, then you tend to kind of get the chicken wing effect, and that could be on the backswing or coming through the ball. And so just even stretching those muscles out with greater core stability allows you to extend through the ball. There's 5 more yards, 10 more yards. There's more accuracy. So these things make a really big difference, and they just make a big difference to the overall health in your body for your life. So that's what I mean about making your golf club your health club and using golf as a way to improve your overall physical health. And, boy, does it pay great dividends in your golf game, your golf swing.
Yeah, exactly. Well said, Jamie. Thank you. Pete, the other thing, too, I last week I had as my guests, I think it was 4 of them, 4 or 5 gentlemen from the Sports Science Lab up in New York, and very into biomechanics and really into a lot of the different theories and testing and that of the flexibility of pro athletes and so forth. And, of course, we talked about golf. And they talked about one of the things, too, is that, with our population today, both young and old, from a work standpoint, there's a lot of us that are maybe sitting behind a desk or, working at a computer a lot, so we get that sort of slumped over in the shoulders, and, our muscles get weak in certain areas, or they get used to stretching in one way. So that's another thing as well, is utilizing some sort of a good program or fitness program that helps sort of attack, if you will, certain muscle areas that become weak from lack of use. So, Pete, I know that you and I are not certainly fitness experts, but I mean, I'm sure that's something that you deal with as well with some of your golfers, where they're not maybe they've worked at a desk a lot of their life, or they're in front of a computer, as I said, and they're lacking in certain things. Is there anything that you try to suggest to them to help counteract that efforts?
Well, I've got two great resources. One is, my medical advisor, who's a, level 3 TPI medical advisor, a chiropractor. And so I'm able to run things by him when I come across students. And my own daughter has a degree in nutrition and fitness. And so I will run things by her, too. When I have a particular student and I say, look, I need more range of motion in these particular areas, give me some exercises that, we can attack these and make it work. And so I'm doing it all the time because, me, I developed a swing that I feel has not only simple, but it's also pain-free. We're going to move so that we don't create or cause any more pain. But if there is some there, then, there's definitely ways we can attack it with exercise. It's been mentioned before, yoga is such a great thing for them to do, too, for working on stability and getting some more movement out of them. But, yeah, definitely I take advantage of it in every aspect that I can with the students, and I hit these resources all the time. And, Dr. Maxwell's probably a little bit tired of me asking him, what does this mean and what does that mean? Because I'll give him these terms that I don't know what they are. And he goes, oh, that's your shoulder. Oh, okay, I get it. Okay, so, but, it's just a matter of, as Jamie was saying, there's so many things that can be done to make them, so much more flexible, so much stronger, better balance, and it's just going to enhance their golf game.
Yeah, and exactly. Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to share a personal story and why I'm just so big on this. I started playing golf when I was 7 years old, so my body wasn't terribly developed, should we say. And I played a ton of golf at that time, up until college. And then I started training in Aikido, martial arts, which is a rolling and falling martial art. So I got thrown around all the time, and I was like, throw me, I got to be the best woman. So I took countless falls. I got thrown by Steven Seagal. It was like 6'6", and I crashed into the ground.
Right.
And I was a runner, so I was pounding all the time. I was a river raft guide. I'm climbing mountains. So, I'm very athletic, and I injured almost every part of my body, and in particular my back, my low back, later on my hips, my ankles, my wrists, my neck. I separated both my shoulders along the way. So I have been there, and when I was about 40, I literally, slowly, it's like, got to stop running, cutting down my martial arts. I was teaching, but I couldn't, I had to stop taking falls, but I couldn't hardly throw anybody. I couldn't have anybody hanging on my body, I just couldn't handle anything. It was tough to travel. A backpack on my back hurt me going through the airport. It got to where I would visit my parents, and I couldn't play 5 holes of golf with my parents who were 20, 30 years older than me, I finally took some time off, went to San Diego, and I was introduced to an amazing woman. Her name's Joanne Kettler. She's not famous, but she should be, in my opinion. She created something called Bliss Work, and Bliss stands for B is balance, L lengthen, I integrate, S stretch, S strengthen. Balance, lengthen, integrate, stretch, strengthen, Bliss Work. And bliss, of course, means happiness. My experience on a biochemical level is that doing the exercises actually stimulates serotonin in the body and in the brain, and you actually feel a sense of bliss by doing the exercises. Well, anyways, in this sort of sabbatical period that I took off to get better, I went to bliss class a lot, and it was amazing to me how much I got better. And I looked at my x-rays. I still had, degenerated discs beyond my ears and et cetera. But functionally speaking, pain went away. All of a sudden, I was felt like I was floating when I walked, whereas before I was compensating my back. Oh, now my leg hurts, now this, now that, my neck hurts. And I just started to have my muscles fall properly on my skeleton. I strengthened my core muscles. I improved my range of motion and flexibility. And lo and behold, pain just started disappearing. And for everyone listening, I want you to know that, in my 50s, I've played 100-hole golf marathons, which, again, someone who couldn't play 5 holes of golf 10 years before. I'm playing 100-hole golf marathons, the only woman in the field. Everybody is straggling and struggling in, all the men at 100, 120 holes at the end of 12 hours. I'm out there. My first attempt was 167 holes. I have now played 212 holes as my personal record in 12 hours. That's 9 holes every half hour, 18 holes in an hour. Granted, riding a cart, but right up to the green. But, you try doing that. 212 holes of golf. From somebody who, in 12 hours who couldn't play 5 holes due to pain. And I come in, I'm like fine and dandy. Everybody else has got their slippers on at dinner, So I have, and that's what I've developed. That's where Make Your Golf Club, your health club comes from. I, in fact, took Joanie to a driving range in San Diego at the time. This was, almost, 15, 20 years ago now. And she could just see, she kind of has this x-ray vision. She understands movement. She understands motion. And she could see what muscles were weak, what wasn't online, what wasn't syncing and coordinating. And she came up with exercises. I put in my golf knowledge and fashioned up Make Your Golf Club Your Health Club, 18 holes of golf bliss. Now, there are more than 18 exercises, in fact, but I have DVDs of all this stuff. The point is, I teach this to martial artists. I've taught it to dancers. I teach it to executives. I teach it to golfers and all kinds of athletes. And I teach it to physical therapists. It's kind of a little bit yoga, a little bit Pilates-like, but it's its own thing. And the exercises are completely doable. You can do them at home. You can do them anywhere. I teach them on cruise ships. There's a railing, a little space. We're all doing it. And fitness doesn't have to be something that's daunting, that's you have to pay money and go to the gym, that's hard. And a little bit, I always say a little bit of fitness, a little bit of balance, strength, integration, a little bit of bliss goes a long way. And I can't even tell you the results I see in all the people that I get a chance to work with. It's I'm just grateful to be the messenger of Joanie's work. It's really phenomenal.
And that's a great point. Thank you for sharing that. Guys, the thing is with fitness and that, obviously we want people to seek out professional help and not just to sort of think that they can go and start, pumping iron at the gym and that, especially for golfers. I mean, there's a lot of exercises out there that are counterintuitive for playing golf. You certainly don't want to be bulking up too much as a golfer because that's going to impede certain abilities as well. But another area too, guys, and we're going to close with this, is obviously the golf swing starts from the ground up. Footwear is something that is overlooked by a lot of golfers. They get a comfortable pair of golf shoes, and they don't want to let them go. I mean, they get scuffed up in that. But something that's changing, again, as we age, we don't have the same stability. And certainly there are some advances in technology. As Cindy pointed out on Tuesday, there are some great orthotics now made available. But even in the golf wear now, there's a lot of it is more stylish and more about appearance and fashion, if you will, than about really comfort. And for some of our senior golfers, Pete, out there, having a good pair of comfortable shoes that are going to support, because as we get older, our arches start to fall a little bit. We become a little bit unstable and unsteady. That's an important piece of the equipment that needs to be updated regularly as well as our bodies change. Talk a little bit about that as well. I mean, I know you probably have a comfortable pair of shoes, but is that something that you look at as you progress through your golfing career?
Well, no question. I mean, you've probably seen it before on the range, and you're looking at somebody and their golf shoes are curled on each end. So if part of the golf shoes off the ground, they're having a hard time staying on the ground. Absolutely. I mean, you have to be comfortable in what you're wearing. I know for me, I'm very particular. I teach in tennis shoes because they're just more comfortable. I still have golf shoes that I wear, but I think it's very important that what they're wearing, it not only keeps the stability but gives them comfort. And there are a lot of companies out there that do that. I mean, granted, there is a lot in the fashion and what they look like, you know, in the appearance and trying to sell those in those ads. But there are a lot of golf shoes now that are moving to a running shoe insole, and that's making a huge difference in how they feel. And so, no, that's really, really important that they have good, solid, you know, golf shoes that are comfortable and do the job to help keep them stable, and you know, allow them to, you know, I think more than anything else, just enjoy it more and not worry about, you know, their feet hurting when they're trying to play. It's a huge deal, and I look at it all the time. So.
Yeah, and Jamie, it's not just, you know, obviously you want them to be comfortable and you want to feel relaxed in that, but there's also stability issues as well. I mean, there's, you know, if you look at, and I'm going to, you know, throw this out there, I mentioned this on Tuesday on the show, but, you know, I call it the duck walk. You see, particularly for men, women I don't see this as much with, but for the men for some reason, I think they're a little harder on their feet, and you'll see them, they're sort of walking from, you know, side to side more as they come towards you. There's a little side-to-side wobble, if you will, and a lot of that is because they don't have good stability. And so this is why it's important, I think, to have good golf shoes, or, Pete, as you mentioned, even some good, comfortable sneakers. You know, there's nothing wrong with playing some sneakers, you know, if they're good and comfortable and offer that foot support. So what are your thoughts on that as well, Jamie?
Well, it's interesting, the sort of duck walk that you see. That can certainly be related to, it starts from the feet up, right? And orthotics can help. A lot of times you'll find that there's issues in the back and in the hips, and that's where, you know, and those are long-standing kinds of issues. But you can help that with good footwear and body work and good exercise and fitness and that sort of thing. It really is important. I think that, you know, we used to have cleats, and that was in order to keep ourselves more stable. We don't have cleats anymore. We have, you know, there's all kinds of cleat substitutes right now.
Spikes.
And I think it's important to just keep your eye on whether you've worn them down too much, because when they actually do grab the ground a little bit, that's what they're designed to do, and that helps us in our golf swing. So, you know, it's important to be sure that your shoes aren't worn down too much. I'm always interested when I see people wearing sandals to golf. For me, they don't work. I don't know how for other people. The reason they don't work for me is that they keep your feet so straight that it makes it difficult to turn the hips and then ultimately the shoulders. So, you know, I think that's something to look at. If some people do feel that sandals work for them, if they are, I think it's actually really important to pay a lot of attention to your footwear and to your footwork. And footwork is essential. It's essential in every sport. I'm a huge advocate of the lower body and that everything starts from the feet up. We spend so much time thinking about our shoulder turn and our straight left arm, but it's really paying attention to what's going on down there in your feet, and even setting up so that your feet aren't too straight. When you open them up a little bit, what happens is that opens up the trochanter joint, and all of a sudden, just from that little adjustment, the hips are able to turn more easily. That takes stress off the spine.
Right.
So, you know, there are those kinds of things in the swing, and, you know, you want your shoes to be able to support that, and you want to, for me, I suggest having an instructor who is paying attention to your footwork. As we age, you know, the modern golf swing is to keep the left foot down. It used to be that the left heel came up on the backswing. But, you know, as we age, there may need to be some adjustment. Okay to let that foot come up a little if the low back or the hips are tight.
Right.
You know, whatever really needs to happen, there doesn't have to be a dogma about things. You know, another thing is we see probably the biggest raging debate in golf today is around the young players and what's their longevity going to be, because the quote-unquote modern golf swing and the way they go at it is causing injuries even at a young age. And we're starting to think, are golfers going to be having the kind of careers of a football player or a basketball or baseball player, like peaking in their 20s and 30s and can't even make it to their 40s? Are we going to see Jason and Rory and all these guys on the senior tour? You know, are they going to make it to the Champions Tour? Tiger isn't, you know.
Right. Yeah, no, that's an excellent point, and I've thought that as well. I mean, you look at players like Jordan and Rory and many of the other young guns out there today, and look what's happened with Tiger. Now, obviously, there may be some other issues there as well, but has had a real issue with his back and of course his knee as well. And he's struggling to get back. And that wears mentally. And golf, of course, a big component of it is your mental awareness around the golf course. And if you can't focus on, playing the game because you're too busy thinking about the twinge in your back or that twitchy knee or something like that continually through your round, it can be miserable. So those are some great points. Guys, I'm going to give you just a few. Sorry, go ahead.
I just want to say I always take the three bears approach. Remember, they tested the porridge and tested the chair and everything. Is it too hot? Is it too cold? You want it to be just right. And there's a way of overdoing it, and there's also a way of underdoing it. And we need to find where is that just right place, that just right zone where we're really supporting our fitness, supporting our health, supporting our optimal well-being and our optimal abilities and capabilities, and we're not overdoing it and tearing ourselves down or underdoing it and not building ourselves up enough.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And I get concerned too for some of these players. Again, you don't see it as much with the lady golfers and that they don't seem to have the same drive to, for that speed. But I see some of these young players and just the incredible club head speed and so forth that they're generating compared to what it was before, and the just sheer driving force in their golf swing. They're almost pulling themselves out of their shoes, and in some cases. And to me, I just think that there's going to be long-term effects. But guys, great discussion tonight. Some interesting points. And I'm going to give, as always, each of you, Pete, I'm going to go with you just since Jamie just finished up with the conversation. And for those that want to reach out to you, and if there's anything special coming up that you want to promote, by all means, go ahead, take a moment or two.
Well, they can always reach me on my website at planesimplegolf.com. That's Plane is the plane. I've got a lot of interesting stuff out there that they can see, and all my contact info is there. We're revamping for 2018, so you want to pay attention. The website's going to have much more action to it and much more involvement in sort of a membership application and all kinds of things that are coming to it. So be on the lookout for that. And again, as I told you, I do a lot of work online, which helps me communicate with my students, all the time. And it's a great way to do it. So if you're anywhere, around anywhere in the world, don't hesitate to contact me because we can still go to work. It's a great way to do it.
Well, as always, Pete, thank you for your time. I appreciate all that you give. And just on a side note here, we may talk about this after, but you mentioned your daughter is specialized in nutrition. We might have to get her on the show because we could use a good nutritionist on here to lay it out, and help some of the listeners out there how to eat properly and get their energy levels up and be able to increase their stamina while they're out playing that 18 holes. So we may enlist her services one night on the Coach's Corner panel. But Pete, as always, thank you very much. I appreciate you.
Thanks, Ted.
Yeah, you joining in. No problem. Jamie, let the folks know how they can reach out to you and anything special you want to plug.
Oh, sure. Thanks, Ted. They can find me through my website, which is KiAi Golf, KiAi Golf.com, and KiAi comes from Aikido, so KiAiGolf.com. Phone number is always good. I'm quite responsive on the phone, 760-492-GOLF, 4653. So those are good ways to reach me. And, I have a couple of classic DVDs. My KiAi Golf Instructional Series has become a classic, and I created a original core exercises bliss workout, so that DVD is available. Balance board that I have been using and I got from Tennis Pros, and it's fantastic teaching tool. And just like Pete, I find that doing online lessons allows me to be able to work with people around the world. There's Skype, you can see what's going on. There's different apps and things, so that's always great. And I've also been working, as we had a whole show on, with iMap Golf, which is an online assessment questionnaire that's really helpful to find out more about you and your golf game. And I do a lot of seminars, special trainings, and clinics are really some of my favorite things to do all over. I travel quite a bit. And that's particularly in the areas of fitness, of mental game, the sort of mind-body game, and business in golf. Golf is still the business sport, so I work with a lot of business golfers and executives and tournaments and charity events and all kinds of stuff. So, I love to mix it up with people and invite anyone to get in touch with me or go on my website. So thanks.
Not a problem. And obviously playing a lot of golf in 12 hours, that you got to keep yourself in good shape to be able to do that. That's incredible, Jamie. Guys, as always, thank you.
The weirdest thing was we were finishing at 6:30. At 6 o'clock, I'm just hit my 200 holes, and I had this funny feeling like I wanted to cry, and I was like, "What is that all about?" And I got sad that I wasn't going to be playing any more golf in a half an hour.
I think you played more golf in that 12 hours than I have in the last 2 months, Jamie. That's incredible.
Me too, trust me.
And I mean, obviously that's not for everybody, but that's a personal goal that you've set, and I think that's fantastic. But you definitely proved the point very well that it is, you can as I said, a lot of the aging golfers out there that are maybe struggling just to even get in 9 holes. There's ways that you can obviously increase that ability by connecting with somebody that specializes in the proper fitness and training that is going to help your golf game. So again, guys, thank you very much as always for coming on the Coach's Corner panel tonight. Great discussion as always, and I look forward to having both of you back here again real soon. And just have a great weekend, guys, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks, Ted. Always a pleasure.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you.
All right, thanks, guys.
Bye.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, that was my very special guests on the Coach's Corner panel, Jamie Leno Zimron and Pete Buchanan. Always a couple of favorites on the Coach's Corner panel discussions, and always some interesting angles and conversation here on the Coach's Corner panel. Coming up here in just a few moments, my very special guest of the evening is Wally Armstrong. He's a lifetime member of the PGA Tour, and I'll tell you a little bit about him in just a second. But let me just remind everybody while I got a moment or two here before he comes on board. Just remind everybody, of course, we are live on Thursday evenings from 6 to 8 p.m. Central here on blogtalkradio.com network. Again, easiest way to find us, go to blogtalkradio.com/Golf Talk Live if you want to type it all out incomplete, or just type in Golf Talk Live up in the search key, and that will take you directly to the main page, and you can listen to the show in its entirety from there. And for those of you that maybe prefer a different platform, maybe iTunes.com or Stitcher.com, it's available there as well. And just go to either of those platforms and, again, type in Golf Talk Live, and that will take you there, and you can listen to it when it's convenient for you. All of the shows, of course, are auto-recorded. So, again, if you can't listen live, go to either of those links that I've just mentioned, and you can go down to the on-demand section and listen to the shows, either the current show, which is obviously airing tonight live, or some of the previously aired shows you can listen to when it's convenient for you guys. But just glad you're joining us either way, whether live or recorded, doesn't matter to me as long as you're tuning into Golf Talk Live. I always appreciate it, and I appreciate some of the great comments and feedback that I get from all of you out there. And as always, I appreciate great folks like Jamie and Pete and many of the others on the Coach's Corner panel for giving of their time. It's not always easy after you've had a long day or played 200 holes of golf. It's certainly not always easy to jump on air and give of your time that way. So I appreciate it very much. And also don't forget to join LPGA professional and Legends Tour player Cindy Miller and I on Tuesday mornings on blogtalkradio.com network. Just type in that case, just type in Women of Golf. And that show airs live Tuesdays from 9 to 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can always listen to some of the great Symetra Tour and LPGA players that have joined us over the last several years, and new players that are going to be coming on the show here in the weeks to come, and some great teacher professionals and entrepreneurs as well stop by that program. So Cindy and I always have a great time interviewing some of our guests, and we got a great show coming up next week, of course, on Tuesday. So make sure you follow that. And that particular broadcast is also available at iTunes and now Stitcher.com as well. So in that case, again, just type in Women of Golf on either of those platforms, and you can listen to it there as well. when it's convenient for you. But as I mentioned, my next guest coming up, my very special guest this evening, I've actually known about this gentleman for a long, long time. He's been in the golf industry for many, many years. And as I mentioned him on a telephone conversation when we first set this up, I'd watched a video some years ago on the Golf Channel that he had done. It was a segment, and it just really impressed me, the whole approach, and he's just had a phenomenal career. And his name, of course, is Wally Armstrong. He is a lifetime member of the PGA Tour, competed in over 300 PGA Tour events, including numerous U.S. and British Opens, of course now called the Open, Masters, PGA, and Tournament Players Championships. And in his first Masters tournament, Wally finished 5th, setting a rookie scoring record of 8 under par at Augusta. He's, as I mentioned, a lifetime member of the PGA Tour and holds a bachelor's and master's degree in education from the University of Florida, where he also achieved All-American honors in golf. So just a phenomenal guy, known and loved by many, many in the profession, and it's truly an honor to have him as my special guest tonight. So as I wait for him, again, don't forget to follow me on social media. You can connect with me on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. My Twitter handle is Ted and Buck CEO. And for those of you that want to connect with me on Facebook or LinkedIn, you can just type in my name, and it's Ted Odorico, Odorico is how you spell my last name. So just plug that in on any of the social media outlets. And I'm also on Instagram as well. So many recent followers of my Instagram page. Again, just type in my name, Ted J. Odorico, and you can follow me on that as well. Very excited, as I said, to have my very special guest, Wally Armstrong, on tonight. And we're going to talk about some things. He's also invented a lot of great things we'll talk about tonight that have helped many, many golfers out there and actually helped the industry as well. He's just a phenomenal gentleman and a great asset to this sport. And obviously he's had a phenomenal career. We're going to talk about a little bit about that, some of the things that he's done in the past and some of the new things that he's looking forward to do as this great game evolves here in the next few generations. So we'll see what's going to happen there. We'll get Wally's input on that as we progress in the conversation. But again, got great shows coming up here in the next several weeks. Got a full schedule here in August and working on September, of course, right now, booking things up throughout the year, and just really looking forward to some of the future guests that are going to be coming on as well. Some you maybe listened to on previous shows, and some new guests that are going to be coming on. I think it'll be for some interesting discussions here on Golf Talk Live. So as I said, just waiting for Wally to come on board. And for those of you also, too, just as I wait for him to come here, on our discussion tonight, he's talking about, I know there's a lot of golfers out there that would fall into sort of the senior category. Make sure that you're doing some of the things that we talked about tonight. When it comes to fitness and nutrition, make sure, of course, you seek out a proper fitness instructor, and more importantly, somebody that's maybe certified in golf fitness instruction, because there is a certain difference. It's fine and dandy to go and if you belong to a local health club, to get out there and maybe do a workout or two. But one of the biggest mistakes that I see with a lot of golfers, really of all ages, they get too intense with a lot of the weight training in that. And the problem with that is that makes you susceptible to injury. And sometimes the injuries don't always show up right away. And you get out there and you start swinging a golf club, and suddenly those injuries that you actually incurred at the health club, you've now taken out and affected something in your golf swing. So I see Wally's available. So I've already done the intro here. So let me bring my very special guest this evening, Mr. Wally Armstrong. Good evening, Wally, and welcome to Golf Talk Live.
Hello, Ted. How are you?
Thank you, sir, for joining me tonight. I'm doing very well. I'm very honored to have you on board here. And
thank you.
I will, thank you for, I know it's not always easy, as I said earlier on the show, for everybody giving their time. We all work very hard during the day, and sometimes we just want to relax. So I appreciate it, you giving of your time. And Wally, one of the things I want to talk about here is obviously you've had a very extensive playing career as well as a teaching career. So let's talk a little bit about some of the playing that you've done in the PGA. I mentioned you played in of course, all of the majors. What are some of the fondest memories that you had, obviously from a player standpoint, about your own playing ability, but also just some of the things that you saw over the years when you played on tour?
Oh, wow, there's so many. I can just think about playing in the majors. I think those were very exciting. I played my first major actually when I was in college. My senior year, we had the NCAA at Stanford, and the next week we had the U.S. Open at Olympic Club. So I was just I turned 21 the Friday of the tournament, and that was my first one I played, and then I played a number of 10 or 12 Opens and PGAs. But I think probably my greatest thrill was walking off the green on in my first Masters, the 18th hole, going off the green and shooting 8 under for the tournament, finishing 5th, 3 strokes behind Gary Player. Would probably be the highlight of my career. I led close to 30 tournaments, either after the first round, second round, third round. Never won. I wish I'd led after the 4th round. But no, I really enjoyed. It was a dream come true for me growing up in a little 9-hole Elks Club in the middle of cornfields in Indiana. Starting out looking for balls and caddying, and to being, to playing 300 tournaments around the world, and it was a great dream come true for me.
I think it's amazing, really, just hearing that, Wally. It's just amazing how many players of that era started out very similar to you. Played, a local muni or just, as you said, out in the cornfields, basically. Just, I remember I started playing golf when I was about 7. I'm 53 now. And, it wasn't always easy at that time, or certainly even affordable to always get out and play on the golf courses as much as we'd like. So we used to, of course, we had a public school that was just down the street, and we had a bunch of soccer fields, 2 or 3 of them. So we used to use the goalposts as our flag, and, would hit back and forth with mostly irons. But that's how we, kind of learned the game a little bit. Let me ask you, just, talking about the tour a little bit, and obviously there was a plethora of phenomenal players, as you mentioned, Gary Player, one of them that you played, in the same tournaments and things with. Who were some of the people that really impressed you, not just because of who they were or anything like that, but just the way they handled themselves on the golf course, just from some of the tournaments that you remember playing? Who did you admire, and who did you really say, wow, that person really handles themselves well at the golf course, and not just as a professional, but just as somebody that really had a sort of a handle on their game? Who really sort of mastered their game, in your opinion?
Probably Jack Nicklaus, who I played with. I played a couple of times in the last group. He won, which was interesting to actually see him work his way around the course. The first one was at Pinehurst number 2 when he won the World Open, playing the last day, and seeing him hit a 3-wood off of every tee just to keep it in play. And he just watched the leaderboard all the way around, hit the middle of every green, and parred every hole, got to the 16th hole to par 5, and hit a driver, hit it about 300 yards and knocked it on the green, 2-putted for a birdie, and parred the last 2 and won. So it was amazing to see him play to his strengths. And definitely there's the saying, don't play the shot that you think you should play the shot that you know you can play. And that's why it's so important for these young kids to develop their bread and butter shot, what I call it. Get a shot that you can pull off under pressure, and then and use it. Don't try to come up with all these creative, crazy shots. And but playing with Jack,
if you
great.
Look at
Tom Watson was another great gentleman to play with. One of the greatest players up and down in management. And of course, Leno played to his style. I really enjoyed playing with Lee because I played my best when I was around people that were talking and having fun. Kind of it got me out of my style, which I played better when I was kind of talking to the other players. And Lee was great to play with. Chi was another guy that was really fun to play with. And those are the kind of guys I like to play with, rather than the real competitive guys that were about as friendly as a wounded rattlesnake playing with them. So I won't.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I think, during that time frame, there was a lot of players that, it was different back then too. I mean, the purses that they were playing for were much smaller. So, that was, they had to finish in the top 10 for sure, if not win the tournament, just to make enough money to play next week. So,
I can remember
there was a lot of.
I can remember playing the Canadian Open. I was playing with Gary Player and Johnny Miller, and we were all out of the tournament, So Gary on the back nine says, "Let's play for a Coca-Cola," So I remember we just had a fun time. We got very competitive with Gary, as you can imagine. But I can remember.
And the traveling was different. Yeah, the traveling was different too. I mean, they didn't. Not everybody could afford to hop on a private jet or even a commercial jet. They drove to a lot of their,
We didn't fly, but maybe 2 tournaments a year. We drove. We had a big Dodge maxi van, and we traveled with all the other players, Larry Nelson and Rick Massengale, a lot of Don Pooley, Morris Sapolsky, a lot of those guys that were the journeymen like me. And we stayed in the same hotels, the Hojos or the Holiday Inns, and the kids all grew up together, had birthday parties, and so it was really kind of a gypsy life, wagon train. So I remember one time the first going down to Houston. This is an interesting story. We got rained out in Dallas, and my wife and I drove down to Houston, got down there late at night, Monday night, to play practice on Tuesday, and we didn't realize they had 3 national conventions going on, and we couldn't get a room. So we pulled up and slept in our car by the hunting green, and of course about 4 in the morning the police came out and shined the lights in, and we had a little schnauzer that went crazy, and they let us sleep there. Well, I ended up leading the tournament for 2 rounds, and we must have had a 25 or 30 people offer us to stay with them the next year, but then they moved the tournament up to Woodlands. So. But that was interesting. I remember we got a lot of headlines around the country. Player leads tournament, slept in car.
Yeah. I'm sure there was. I'm sure that's just just one of many interesting stories, and I'm sure that was not as pleasant of a time for your wife having to sleep in the car. I'm sure she would have preferred a much more comfortable setting, but you know what? That was fun too, I'm sure, in many ways.
Yeah, you just roll with it. It was just really fun back then. It wasn't. I mean, it was competitive, but there wasn't any money.
Yeah.
I mean, you could, as a rabbit, you could play a practice round on Sunday, qualify on Monday, play a practice round on Tuesday, get up in the morning and play before the Pro-Am on Wednesday, play Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and not make a check. And that I never got skunked, but I remember playing at Green Island once and really grinding it out, and got, I think I made like $42 or something, but that was the bottom of the barrel right there.
Yeah, that's tough to scrape together, to get your travel expenses and things like that. Wally, as I said to you on the phone when we set this up a little while back, one of the things that really impressed me, and this was sort of what jogged my memory and why I wanted to have you on the show, not just because of this, but obviously you've done some phenomenal things for the game, not only as a player, but even more so as a teacher and coach. But I was recalling a segment that you had done years ago on the Golf Channel when it was really first getting its legs. And if you recall from the conversation, you had played, I think it was 3 holes, if memory serves me correct. And I guess the premise, and maybe you can set it up a little bit better than I can, but talk a little bit about it. But you were basically showing that you could go around a golf course with essentially a 7-iron, a pitching wedge, and a putter, and still score a decent score. And what I extrapolated from that was everybody was so focused with hitting this long ball, but really you were able to show with just 3 clubs that you could go out there. You didn't have to have necessarily the best equipment. You just had to know what you were doing. Talk a little bit about, if you don't mind. I mean, I know it was a long time ago, but maybe talk a little bit about that if you can recall it as I have, really what the thought behind that segment was.
Well, it's just a great way to play different shots. You know, if you're hitting a 5-iron and you're teeing off with it, then you play it back and you trap it and you play the run shot. You know, if you've got a 5-iron, you have to cut it over a bunker, you know, and play a little flop shot. You know, so it really gives you a feel for the game. And I think, you know, one of the great things of playing with Gary Player, tons and tons of practice rounds, is we would throw the balls off the green, you know, out into the trees and into the rough, and then wherever they were, we'd go play them, and we'd compete, you know, of all these crazy lies, you know, and Gary, you know, always used to say, don't come to a shot on the golf course that you haven't practiced before, you know, and so I remember going to Muirfield the first year. I knew they had water on maybe 13 of the holes, and the greens were mowed right down to the lake, and I realized that I'm probably going to have the ball, you know, in the water, and I need to know how far down I can go after a ball in the water and what club to use and how to play the shot. So I went down to a lake with my bathing suit on and prior to that tournament, and just started, you know, putting balls down in the water and trying wedges and pitching wedges and how to come in and where to go. And, you know, it was really interesting, and I got into that tournament, and I had 3 water explosion shots in that tournament, and I got all 3 on the green and 2 of them up and down. So, and I still remember how to play the ball, and you know, out of the water. But that's what I try to tell these kids when I do my playing psychology workshops for high school and college kids. You know, I say, look, just get out there and know what you can do, what you can't do, and practice all those shots, because you may come to one and you don't want to have to start guessing, especially if you're putting your life on the line, you know, on the tour. One shot can mean a difference in, you know, now, you know, tens of thousands of dollars.
Oh, easy, yeah. That's probably even an understatement now. I mean, it could be even as much as $150,000 depending on where they're positioned. But you're exactly right. Which, you know, is a lot of money to anybody, but even to those guys, it's still a lot of money. You know, Wally, one of the things that you know, we see as instructors, I teach as well, and one of the things that I see, and why it goes to what you just talked about, why it's so important to really practice these things. We see a lot of these guys, I know you see it all the time, where we call them sort of the range rabbits. They're just out in the range all the time, hitting balls. You know, they're raking the ball and hitting another one, and they're not really putting any thought to it. And, of course, they've got a perfect lie every time. So they're not really practicing realistic, you know, situations, on-course situations. What do you try to do to alleviate that? Do you try to, when you're working with somebody or a class or whatever the case, do you try to mix it up a little bit and give them more on-course realistic situations when you're going through a practice session?
Oh yeah, you know, I use a lot of the, you know, the marking stakes, where I'll set up goalposts with PVC pipe. You know, you want to be creative. You want people to be able to play by feel, and of course, that's my whole philosophy: is the game has to be played by feel. It can't be played by mechanics, and that's why I've created and patented a number of training tools that are designed, when applied correctly and used, to build the correct feelings, so that you can, when you go out and play, then those feelings will be reproduced. You know, you have to play by remembered feelings, not by mechanical manipulations or, you know, telling your body left arm straight or right elbow, you know, and that's what, of course, amateurs get trapped into I call it the thrill of complication. They think the more I know, the better I'm going to be, the more of these parts of you know, my body I can control, and you know, when you think of it, Ted, I like to tell people, you know, the swing takes about a second and a half, and if you shoot 90, you're only going to really actually be playing golf for about 2 minutes, and you got to be able to play by feel, and your mind can't process more than maybe one swing feeling backwards and one through, you know, and that's. But people get so wrapped up in this thrill of complication and mechanics, and I've seen some of my pro-am partners that have a list of swing tips, you know, in their pockets that they're reviewing as they're playing, and of course that's a kiss of death.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right, and that's so true. You know, and you can almost see it. I remember playing years ago with a young kid. He joined in a group I was with. There was 3 of us, and he wanted to play, and he was probably about 12. And you know, you could see him mumbling to himself as he was getting up on the tee box. And of course, you know, Freddie Couples was one of his favorites to watch. So there was a time there when, you know, Freddie would tug on that, you know, the sleeve. He'd get the sleeve, you know, in the right position. Well, this young boy would mimic. You know what I'm talking about. So of course, this young chap would mimic, you know, the Freddie Couple move there, and he would do this about a half a dozen times. And I finally had to put him on the clock. I said, "Look, you're taking too much time." And I mean, of course, we were just having a fun round, but you know, he would have so many thoughts going in his head. And then he wondered why his ball was going all over the place. So let me ask you something, and the reason why I brought that up is I want to lead you into an area here that I think really needs to be discussed, and I think you're a perfect person to do it. In today's game, there is this sort of pursuit for perfection in the golf swing and everything, mechanically, everything being sound. You played with a lot of guys that, let's be quite frank, had some funky-looking swings. Lee Trevino was one that I can think of. Many others I'm sure that you can think of as well, but he's probably the most Miller Barber. Even in more modern times, Jim Furyk, you know, with a little bit of a loop at the top. Yeah. Do you think that's, I mean, obviously it's worked for many players, but is it really making it hard for amateurs to follow when everything has to be so perfect? Do you think that sort of teaching method, and I'm not trying to knock anybody out there, but that it's made it so difficult that a lot of people have become frustrated, and that's part of the reason why some have dropped out of the game? In your opinion, what do you think?
Well, certainly you get so you can get so wrapped up in the mechanics and trying to make it right that you lose the feel for the game, you know. And it's gone the other way too. You have a guy like Seve Ballesteros, who, you know, was the greatest field player that ever, you know, I'd say ever lived. You know, I mean, you just see the hole, pick the club up and hit it. But then Seve got into trying to work on his swing, you know, and lost it. There's been, I don't know, hundreds of players that have fallen into that trap, you know. And it really depends a lot
Nick Faldo comes to mind.
The personality of and the way that you process information, you know. You have to, and that's and I'm not a teacher of really good players. I've never really kind of worked with great tournament players. I'm more of a common folk teacher, you know. John Jacobs called me the Lord of the Hacks. Gary Wiring called me the Sanford and Son of golf instruction. I'm a junkyard teacher. I like to just get all kinds of crazy props and teach people to feel, but you have to apply it to that person's, to the way that they process information, the way they process the golf swing. And that's the great thing of teaching the game. I know you found that in your own teaching, is you have to get to know the student and what is their golf language. You know, I always think about anybody that comes to me for a lesson is I've got to find out what their language is so I can speak back to them in the way that they process the golf swing. So there is a real danger in a system that you're so wired to in terms of your own, you know, terminology and technology. I think that's what kills a lot of people if they go to some of these studios where they have a set way of addressing every issue. And you get a right brain person in there, and you're teaching them, you know, a mechanical, and you've lost him. You know, he'll never improve. And so that's a great teacher has got to work with the student on in terms of their own learning processes,
you're exactly right. Yeah, you're exactly right. So, I mean, there's a lot of players that visually. You know? Yeah, and you have to, and that's part of the assessment process. When you first are working with a new student, particularly, you need to ask a lot of questions. You need to sort of find out what their language is, and because some players, obviously, you can coach with a more verbal tone. There's some players that need to visually see what it is that you're talking about. I want to read out a few things. Well, these are some things that you had sent me, but I want the folks to just get an idea of just some of the things that you've done in your career. Here's just some of the, for the folks listening, here's some of the innovations, if you will, that Wally has put out there. He's developed the first junior golf instructional tapes, created Titleist's first set of junior golf clubs, produced the top-selling beginning women's video of all time, developed and starred in Maximizing Your Game with Pat Summerall and Kenny Rogers, which was one of the popular and groundbreaking golf videos in history. You also, which a lot of people probably didn't know this, you invented SNAG, Revolutionary National Golf School golf program, which is really helping to change how golf is taught around the world. And you produced the Swing the Circle, a video summarizing your circle teaching method, which is really at the heart of all of your golf instruction and for over 50 years. Maybe just touch on a little of those, a little bit just for the folks that maybe aren't familiar with those, just a little bit maybe about each. And particularly I want you to talk about Snag Golf. Just explain to folks what that is that maybe not be familiar.
Oh, wow. Well, coming out of
I know it's a lot.
I mean, it all started with me back when I was in graduate school at the University of Florida. My administrator was Conrad Railing, who was really the most innovative guy in terms of, he started all these drills and practice stuff, back in the 40s. But he really gave me this creative mind of, how people learn and how you teach, people. And so my first video I did with my son, we started doing clinics for kids and dads, and he's a lefty and I'm a righty, and we teed up balls together, and we hit balls together, and then we started using footballs and baseballs and baseball bats and, ways of teaching the game, how, golf is similar to football and baseball and the moves. And then we did our first video 31 years ago. Now he works for the Golf Channel. You'll see his name on the telecast. He does all the graphics and the scoring, and that's been a real thrill to see him get into the business in that way. And then I did a whole series of tapes for coaches and teachers, and I did like you said, the television series with Kenny Rogers and Pat Summerall sold about 135,000 sets of videos, and then I took 5 of my creative training tools, and they went out to, I actually went out to Hollywood to a prop place where they make a lot of the props for movie sets, and they made these homemade props into manufactured ones that you could use, like a hanger and a ball and a string and a sponge, and that kind of got me into the training aid market. Then my next son, when he became 10, he came up with the idea of having a club for kids, and he came up with the idea called T-Rex. And so we sold the idea to Titleist, and they created a whole line of clubs. But we did a video together that went in the box with the clubs, because I've always felt like, don't give kids just a set of clubs, and equip the parents, on how to use them to teach the kids. So that the video came with the box. Then as Tiger came into the front, we knew that we had to get, I felt like I always use tennis balls to hit with clubs to teach kids, beginners, and bigger holes.
Right.
Hula hoops to hit to. So I started thinking of a game that, how could we create a mobile golf game that could teach the fundamentals of golf, and that we could take to right where the kids are in the inner cities or out in the fields. And so I had another mature player that I linked up with, Terry Anton, and together we created this game called Snag, Starting New at Golf, which has, a plastic putter and a plastic club, and that has become my first tee's mainstay. It's all over the world now. 5.5 million kids have got into golf using that simple game. So I really feel like that's one of the keys is you've got to get kids out when they're young and give them success. Golf's too hard for little kids with a little ball on the ground with a steel club, and usually too heavy. So that's the whole premise there is give them a big ball, give them a big hole, a ball teed up, and then they'll have a lot more fun. They'll get hooked into the game a lot quicker and keep it, rather than the frustration of real golf as kids. So
and there's a ton of there's a ton of teacher professionals all over the place, as you said, around the world that are using the snag game just to teach. I know many of them that have actually been on the show here over the last several years all talk about that, and it's a phenomenon. There's a Nicole Weller, who's out in South Carolina. She is a big proponent, talks about it all the time, how she uses it incorporates in her program and that. And she's just a great young lady, a great LPGA professional. So, I mean, that's a big plus for you to come up with something like that. You know, it makes me wonder, too, Wally, a little bit, is why we don't see, and I understand part of it, but, you know, every other sport is in the school system at a junior level. I mean, we've got football, we've got baseball. Why do you think golf has never I mean, we certainly have it at the collegiate and even at the high school level, but we don't see it very much. It's starting to creep in now, but it's not in the school level in the elementary and even junior high as much as it could. Why do you think that is, and what could we do as an industry?
I'd like to see more of it. It does take a lot more time, and it takes a lot more travel, space to get the courses and set up. There are more junior highs, I think, that are having golf teams. But I certainly hope that, I think this PGA Junior Leagues is really catching on. It's exploding,
Right.
Getting kids out into the game. But Ted, what I've really worked on, I think I sent you a little information about it, but I've created a whole new game that even comes in before even a club called air golf. And Nicole was using Kate Tempest, and a lot of the top teachers are realizing that if they can start kids out, and what this basically is it's a tennis ball on some colored ribbons, and you swing it like a golf club, but you throw it. You swing it back and forth, and basically what you do is you set a bucket out in the field, and that's the hole, and you get the kids to you start them out just throwing it with one arm, just throwing it back and throwing it, and then wherever it is they throw it again, and you say, now this is golf. See, you throw it, you go from one ball one place to the next, and then you throw it in the bucket, and the lowest score wins. And then you put a rope around it, and you say, this is the green, and this is the hole, and then you put two little pegs. This is the team, see, and this is the fairway. So they're really playing the game in the air, throwing this ball. Then you have them put two hands together and swing it back and forth. And they throw it, see. And basically you have all these fun games, but they always play 2 holes or 3 holes or whatever. And then as they're swinging the ball in front of them and throwing it, they're learning distance awareness. They're learning the little short ones, that's a putt. A little farther back swing, that's a chip. So the whole idea behind this is to get kids out playing the game first, like they do, like you said, with other sports. There's no other sport in the world that you start with the fundamentals of putting or chipping or pitching. You don't get to play. Kids don't get to play. There's no system in any of the schools where the kids play first, like other sports. Then they learn the fundamentals. Yeah. So what air golf does is it comes in before snag. I wish I had known this, 15 years ago. But if we can get the kids to learn the swing first and to get excited about playing the game and learn the terminology, then when you give them a club, they already have the swing, see? And you're just adding, you're adding a club to the swing rather than trying to create a swing with a club, because there's like 9 different things that happen when you give a kid a club and he sees a ball on the ground. He's going to go up and down and chop. He's going to go backwards and forwards. He's going to sway his body. He's going to try to hold the face straight. He's going to try to scoop it in the air, Yeah. He has no concept of swinging around his body to make something go straight. And because golf's so foreign, you got 2 hands in front of you. You're swinging at a hole that you're not looking at. And but air golf solves all of their problems from the start, see. And so we're we're gradually working with this game, and
it's funny that you mentioned that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that, and that you mentioned Kate Tempesta. Kate Tempesta has been a guest every year, actually, on my show. I always have her back, and and she's been a great guest. And I know she does some phenomenal work up in New York, as does Nicole out in her region. Just with so many things, and again, takes a very what would be to most a very unorthodox approach. Again, a lot of these kids don't have a club in their hand. Obviously, she's using this air golf and other things as well, but just teaching them the fundamentals really of golf without even having a club in their hand, and what a great way to introduce these kids to a game. And really, as both of these ladies have pointed out, is when you get them young like that and get them put that sort of plant that seed, as they start to develop, they will naturally gravitate to what we understand as traditional golf. But if they're not introduced to it in some way or fashion, I think that's fantastic. What you were just talking about, air golf, I think that's a great way to introduce kids, and that's something that could be very inexpensive for school systems to even pick up.
Oh yeah, and they can play, and it's safe, and they can do it in a gym, or they can do it out in the field. And I've had a chance to go down to the inner city of Chicago. I've been up there twice in the kill zone, and there are some unbelievable people that are down there that are trying to help these kids and rescue them, and get them in, and they can do this air golf, see, and they can compete, and they can have fun, and it's safe, and I really learned down there, half of those kids, they hate basketball because half the kids are really not these athletic, jumping kids that can, score anywhere, anytime. And so the kids just sit around. They have nothing to do, but they can do this air golf, and then they can work into snag. And that's why I'm hoping to integrate these two together now in a two-step program, and we're developing a curriculum for it right now. Then the other thing I've been really working on, Ted, is, I've always felt like the hidden giant for golf is the churches. There's 350,000 churches.
Right.
And there, every church, I see every church is a golf course, because I could put a little, I could put an air golf course there and a snag or short golf course there. But there's thousands and thousands of kids in there. There are parents, there are people that love kids. They have facilities. If we can get little golf teams going there, we could build the base of golf tremendously over the next 10, 15 years. And then you get these kids into the local program. So I'm working on a little church package now where they would develop a team of 12 kids on a team. And you have a lot of kids that can't do these teams. It's amazing how many kids are autistic. And so we've given a bunch of our air golf equipment to the Ernie Els Foundation. They're working with it. You have these kids that have mental or physical challenges, but they can do air golf. They can do snag or short golf. And so those are the kids we want to get involved so that they can, I always feel like the game of golf has to be caught, not taught. And Mike Hebron is such a good friend of mine, and Mike uses the term play to learn. See, as you're playing, you're learning. As you're playing, you're learning. And so that's the whole concept of this air golf, connecting it into snag or short golf is, we get them playing first. As they're playing, they're excited about the game, and they're learning the fundamentals. They're catching them, rather than being taught them, by the programs are all caught up in the mechanics rather than the feel.
Yeah, and I agree with that 100%. I think one of the issues that I've seen over the years, and certainly, there's room for everything, but a lot of the junior programs of the past were really funnels into not just necessarily the big tours, but into other junior golf programs. And not everybody has that skill level. Not everybody has the ability to make their collegiate team or make it on the PGA or LPGA tour. And there needs to be a system available that anybody, doesn't matter where you are or what challenges you may be faced with, should be exposed to this game. And something, and I don't know whether this would be, I'm just sort of throwing this out there. I don't know, how familiar you are with the hockey process, but we have a thing. I'm originally from Canada, so we played quite a bit of hockey up there. We had what we called a house league, and that was really anybody. I mean, you didn't have to be a phenomenal player, but it was a less expensive way to get exposed to the sport. And, again, some of the programs you're talking about would be a great way. Something that I'd like to see come back.
That's right.
Some things I'd like to see come back is some of the executive style courses, not just the par threes, but the old executive style courses. They don't seem to be as many around anymore. A lot of them maybe have closed up. People don't have time to play 4.5 hours as much as they used to. So that's another deterrent from getting people to get into the game as well.
There's a great course here in Orlando that I was a part of the founding board. It's a 100-year-old course in Winter Park. It's 100 years old, 9-hole little club, and the Golf Channel got behind it. Some business leaders, they raised $1.2 million and built this into a fabulous little 9-hole course. And that's where I play. I mean, I belong to a big country club, but I just love going over there and get my little Sunday bag, and I play with my grandkids, and we just, it's $15 for 9 holes, and you throw it on your back and you go play, and you play it in an hour and 45 minutes. And it's like you said, that's a perfect a little place for the kids and the dads and the grandfathers to get out and get the kids going. And we need more of those facilities, like you said, to get the kids started. But my whole thing, Ted, is that we've got to get the parents and the grandparents teaching the kids. And that's why air golf and we call it, short golf is coming over from England this fall. The first tee already has it. It's the same as type of a snag product. Right. But we're going to have a retail package so that even if they go on my website now, wallymaygolf.com, we have a little beginning package for parents and grandparents where they get an air golf flyer and they get the basics to go out and get the kids started without having to buy a whole full set of clubs. And we call it taking their temperature. You don't want to push kids in the game, but if you can get them playing a little air golf and they can throw it, and you can get a ball with them, and you can get a bucket out there. And I'm doing a video right now where I go into a dollar store with my camera, and I go in and I go, okay, here's, you're going to get your golf course now. Okay, here's the bucket. Here's the bucket. Okay, here's the rope section. That's your green. Okay, let's get over here. Now, here's a couple of rulers. Now, these are your tee markers. So you can build a hole for $4, and then you get an air golf flyer for $10 from our website. Okay, so for $14, you get your own golf course, and you can set it up in your yard or a field, and you can go play golf, have fun, learn the rules, and get started. So to me, it's about giving being out there with the kids. They just want to be with their parents or grandparents and play and compete. We can get them there. Then when they get into the snag or short golf, they're going to be a lot more excited about it because they already know what playing the game is all about, and they can relate to it.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. I know when the girls were on, when Kate and as I said, Nicole have been on the shows before, they said how important it is really to get the kids introduced in some fashion at a very early age, because once they get into their teenage years, if they've never been exposed to it, I won't say that you've lost it entirely, but you've missed a big window of opportunity. And I like your approach to this, keeping it very simple and getting the parents and grandparents involved as well. And I've always said here over the last several years, I think the next evolution of golf is going to be family golf. Obviously there's always going to be corporate, and there's always going to be dad and mom and couples and that. But I think family golf is really a way for the industry to make exactly what you're talking about happen, is really and that's where I think a lot of the marketing and a lot of the focusing should start moving into if they want to continue to grow this game.
That's right. You're absolutely really got it, Ted. So I agree with you 100%. And I'm working on a little a little 6-hole chip and putt course right now. We're drawing up the plans where you'd only play air golf and snag or short golf. So it's safe. You can build them in about 1.5 acres. and you can get the kids all out playing and learning the game, and then it would be really the first steps. And then from there, then you take them into the junior programs. The pros will send all their beginners over there, see, so they can get the swing and get the basics and learn how to play. And then when they come back to the club, they can get them right into the junior leagues and into their programs, see. And so to me, that's if you go to England, or of course I've played in the British Opens and Scottish Open, the senior Britishes. If you go into those little towns up in Scotland and Ireland, a majority of the towns have a little chip and putt course for the kids. And then down, a lot of the cities are on the ocean, have big, huge putting greens between the main street and the ocean, and they have huge putting greens. Some of them will be 200 or 300 yards long, and the vendors come out with their carts and they cut holes in the greens, and people from the city come down and they putt in the evenings, and it's a fabulous way. So you see this happening over there, and I sure agree with you that more of these communities and cities, instead of tearing down the 18-hole city courses and building condos, they ought to just keep 9 holes, or or make a little 6-hole course, and just keep it as a community where parents and kids can go down and play in an hour and a half or two, and not have to spend $50, $60 for greens fees. So hopefully we'll see more of that.
Yeah, I agree with you. And, it reminds me of kind of an interesting story. Years ago, I was up in Toronto, and I was visiting what we call Toronto Island, which was a short little boat ride across in Lake Ontario. And I remember years ago that they had these little metal baskets about the same size, maybe a little bit bigger than what you would have a large bucket of balls on a golf course. And they had them wrapped around these trees, and I couldn't understand what it was. Well, then what had happened was, this is when Frisbee golf first came out. And it was interesting how many people that had never played golf before but got interested in the game because of this. And this was something that the city just decided to do. There was no business involved with. The city just decided, somebody came up with the idea, and it just caught on. And, so ideas like what you're talking about, I think, are great ways to introduce the public as a general, and especially kids, to the game without having to drag them out to the golf course and filling them up with a bunch of lessons when they don't even really understand what it is they're doing. So I think what you're talking about, air golf and then, subsequently snag and other great things out there, and short golf, are great ways to introduce to the masses, really, to the younger generation, and get them first interested in just playing and going out and having some fun.
Yeah. Well, I think the other game we do have, we call it 3 steps to real golf. It's on my website. We start them with air golf, then we go to the big ball with the snag or short golf, and then we go to what we call it tee up golf, and that's where if you go on a golf course, you let the kids tee the ball up everywhere. Yeah. And then also, I have some friends in California that have patented a 10-inch hole that sits on top of the ground. It's called a ball hog, hole on ground, and especially designed with little bumpers on the side, so if the ball starts rolling over the edge, it'll stop it. So we basically can put that on the green, when you're playing with your parents. So you put it on the green ahead of time. The kids start at the 150, but they tee the ball up everywhere. For the little courses, if you don't have a golf course, we found these little foam golf balls. They're the size of a golf ball, but they're made out of foam, so you can tee those up and use a 9-iron or a putter, just kind of like a snag club, and play to our big hole on the ground. So we've got a whole system that the third step is going to be tee it up everywhere on the golf course and play to a big hole on the green. So that's the kids get as you know, you hit the big snag ball with a big plastic club to a great big target, and then you go to real golf and you have a round grip and a little ball on the ground to a little 4-inch hole. It's so frustrating for these kids, and they give it up.
Yes.
The third step is really tee the ball up everywhere, the real ball, and play to a bigger hole. So they get the success, and then you work the ball down lower and lower to the ground where they're finally hitting it off the ground. Then you work them over from the big hole, to the regular size. I call it the missing ingredient. It's the missing transition that the PGA pros have not found yet, and hopefully we'll be able to move them on over to that a little bit. It takes a long time to bring these innovative things in the game. It took almost 3 years before the USGA or the first tee even realized that snag was really going to be the mainstay.
Right.
They thought of it. They kept saying, it's just a toy. Well, no, it really isn't, because it really is. It's proven that it is the way. One of the most positive ways to get kids started.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right, Wally. I think what's really important is if whatever task you give a child is too difficult or too challenging, then frustration takes over and they give it up. They stop. And I mean, if you put a toy in front of a kid, if they're confused by it or they don't understand or can't seem to work it, they won't play. They'll push it aside and they'll find something else. So the easier and more fun you can make it to begin with, just to get them interested, and then, like you say, sort of almost like weaning them off it over time, you're going to have much more success. And I agree with that analogy 100% as well. Well, Wally, listen, I hate to say this, but we're out of time. I've just really enjoyed having a great discussion with you, and I hope you'll come back again, and we'll talk about whatever you want. But let me just say this. It's been an honor and a pleasure having you on as my guest this evening. You just have done so much for this game, some of which we talked about. We obviously couldn't get through everything, but maybe the next time we'll get through some other things that we didn't talk about tonight. But thank you for doing all that you do, and thank you for just making this game so accessible to so many people. That just is really a testament to the individual that you are, not only as a golf professional, but as a human being. So thank you, and God bless for that.
Appreciate it so much. Have a great time, and the kids, if they want to get to the website, wallymadegolf.com, that's where all the information is on for the products and the teaching.
Perfect. Wally, again, thank you very much for joining me tonight on Golf Talk Live.
Thanks,
you have a great evening and a great weekend, and we'll talk to you soon. And I will make sure before I close off tonight. I definitely will do that. I'll make a point of that. Thank you, Wally. Have a great weekend, and I look forward to you joining me again in the future.
Thank you, Ted. Good night.
All right. Bye-bye. All right, that was my very special guest this evening, Wally Armstrong, a lifetime member of the PGA Tour, and as you got a great example tonight, inventor of so many great ways of teaching this game to all ages, really, but particularly to some of our younger folks out there. And as Wally pointed out a few times throughout the program, please visit his website. It's wallymadegolf.com. It's WallyMadegolf.com. WallyMadegolf.com. Excuse me. A lot of great products on there. Some great videos as well. I'm sure you'll find on there. So make sure you visit his website and check it out. And I'm sure that you'll be able to purchase some of the great teaching aids as well through that website. So make sure, again, it's WallyMadegolf.com. And once again, as always, I appreciate all of the time that my guests on the Coaches Corner panel, Jamie and Pete, thanks, guys, for doing a great job tonight. As always, I know I can always count on you guys to make it interesting and fun. And again, also to my very special guest, Wally Armstrong. Thank you, guys, for joining me this evening on Golf Talk Live. And certainly, most importantly, I want to thank all of you, listeners out there worldwide, for faithfully tuning into Golf Talk Live each and every week. And as tonight's show can attest to, I have a great amount of pleasure and enjoyment of having a number of highly talented coaches, teaching professionals, authors, and entrepreneurs stop by. And it's really through their participation and guest appearances that have helped to make Golf Talk Live a first-class show. Special thanks to some of the supporters and sponsors of the show. South Coast Golf Guide's Jonathan Laird. Go to southcoastgolfguide.com to find out more about some of the great tracks here in the southeastern part of the United States, from Texas right over here to the northwestern part of Florida, and all states in between. Go to southcoastgolfguide.com. You can check it out there. Lots of great courses, lots of great information on there. And if you're interested in getting a hard copy of the guide, you can reach out to Jonathan there through the website, and he'll be more than happy to ship one up to you wherever you may be. Or if you're planning on visiting the southeastern part of the United States, especially down here in Florida, and you want a copy of the guide to have in your hot little hands, it's a great little small guide, so it's not overly cumbersome. You can visit most of your golf courses in the area here, and as I said, it's in many of the other states right over to Texas, or in most of the Edwin Watts stores as well. You can get them in there. So go to southcoastgolfguide.com to get your copy there. And if you're interested in any advertising opportunities, you can reach out to Jonathan at South Coast Golf Guide as well. Meredith Kirk, great LPGA professional in the South Carolina area in Myrtle Beach. Go to meredithkirk.com to learn more about her. Also, Nikki and Tiffany Litherland. Nikki, a great teacher, a golf professional, and his lovely wife, Tiffany. Thank you for always continuing to help spread the word about the show. Mr. Bernie Pinder, my friend from Ontic Golf. Visit onticgolf.com to learn about a great customized putter system and some great equipment there. onticgolf.com, and get your copy, or get your self-customized putter as well. Sean Kelly, from the owner of linkedgolfers.com. Thank you, Sean, for all of your continued support. And Mr. Peter Doyle from Doyle Golf Solutions over in Ireland, a great teacher professional and a great club fitter as well. Thanks, guys, for tuning in each and every week here, as I said. Don't forget next Tuesday to join Cindy Miller and I on the Women of Golf show on blogtalkradio.com. That'll be from Tuesday morning 9 to 10 a.m. Eastern. And then Thursday, I'll be right back here with another great episode of Golf Talk Live, Thursday evening from 6 to 8 p.m. Central. On that note, thank you, everybody. Have a great weekend. God bless, and thank you for joining me. I'll see you next week right here on Golf Talk Live.